Welcome to the Autistic Techie Podcast. I'm your host, Shay Belsky, an autistic software engineer and tech lead. We're going to dive into the world of tech careers from a neurodivergent perspective, interviewing guests from all different corners of the industry and empowering you to be a better self-advocate. When you think about confident, well-spoken communicators, who comes to your mind? And what do you think actually creates a well-spoken, confident communicator? Is it how slowly they speak? Is it what they say? Metaphors or something else? When you think about communicating with other people, there's the other half of that. It's receiving information and processing it, and then being able to re-explain it and engage in a conversation with those people who you're talking to. Communication isn't just talking, though. It's emails, Slack and Teams, in-person conversations, social cues. There's lots of subtle things that go way deeper and more complex than just a talked about conversation. When you're communicating with somebody, the terms of how that actually occurs is up to you. It's up to the other people who are a part of that. You lay out the terms so that being a Zoom meeting, a Slack conversation, an email thread, you meet up in person to talk about it. Whatever it is, you all agree on the right mode for which you communicate. And that gives you a lot of autonomy and control over how it all actually plays out. And I want to talk about that in today's episode, about enabling you to be more confident in not pushing back, but being able to speak confidently about the ways that you want to communicate and what those modes are. If you dread Zoom meetings or calls like that, there's probably a set of good reasons for that, and that's not your fault. You just might have a hard time being able to talk over a Zoom call, manage eye contact, manage who is saying what, having to flip back and forth between different videos, and you may find yourself looking away from the Zoom call, as I often do. I often look at myself on a Zoom call to help me communicate better. It removes the stress that I feel when I'm on a video call, and I don't have to worry about if somebody thinks I'm looking at them in the eyes. And I also just say to my coworkers, hey, sometimes my eyes might just wander and dawdle. That doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. I am paying attention to you, but not having to maintain eye contact allows my mind to focus less on eye contact and more about actually processing what you're saying and actually being a meaningful contributor to the meeting. And that's weird to people. People think that that's odd. What, you're not looking at the Zoom camera, therefore you're not paying attention? Well, you know your brain better than anybody else. So if that is how it goes down for you, you know that. And it is important for you to be able to say that, to have the safety and confidence to talk about that with your team. I also say to my team, hey, sometimes you might see a fidget device that I'm playing with my hands. I'm not distracted. This is just how I need to show up for this conversation to be more focused and more present. And that is the terms that I bring into this conversation so that I can communicate better with you. Because if we're having a meeting about an important topic, they want me to be at 100% of my brain power and be able to really be present. We're having this meeting for a specific reason, and if I'm not able to be my 100% self and actually show up, then I'm not really able to be at this meeting, and we're going to have to find a different way to have this meeting. Maybe we do emails, maybe we do an asynchronous huddle, we do a thread, whatever it is. The mode of communication is incumbent upon making sure that every participant is able to show up as best they are able. And for some people, maybe that means I'm not on video today. Maybe that means, oh, I'm going to have something to eat while I'm having this meeting. I'm still here and paying attention. I just need to have something to eat or drink. Or maybe you go for a walking meeting. I'm a mover. I love walking meetings. And if you find yourself being restless, if you want to get up and move a little bit, get a good pair of Bluetooth headphones and ask your team, hey, is it cool if I do this as a walking meeting? Because if that is what helps you focus and be present for the meeting, then they should want you to be able to do that. If you're worried about people getting upset at you, it helps to explain why these things matter to you and why you need these adjustments and accommodations to help you feel more focused. I articulate this to my team. I say, I may not make eye contact in this meeting because it helps me stay focused on the conversation and spend less time having to manually maintain eye contact. That's just me. That's an example. But you do whatever you have to do to articulate that in your own words. Maybe you take medication for any number of reasons that is really effective early in the day, but as time goes on, it starts to wear off. And maybe you become restless. Maybe you become anxious. Maybe you have some sort of co-occurring side effect or another medical condition, and you are not able to be as present on meetings later in the day as you would be earlier in the day. Explain this to your team and say, hey, team, I would prefer to have meetings earlier in the day because it helps with the medication that I am taking so I can focus and be myself. Because later in the day, I might not be able to focus and be as present in the meeting as I want to be and as I need to be. You're on a team. You're in this together, and they should want to help work with you to find the right ways to work. And that might take some work on their side too to make this all come together. But they should be invested in you wanting to be successful. You shouldn't be afraid of asking them because they're your peers, they're your allies, and they should be able to support you. And if you're having trouble doing that, ask your manager. Ask other neurodivergent people in your workplace and see now what about the contents of the conversation itself? When you actually figure out, is it Slack, is it Zoom, is it Teams, is it something else? When you get down to the nitty gritty of it and somebody is asking questions of you, when they need information from you, when you are participating in something and you need to actually get involved, what then? Perhaps you're the type of person who benefits from meeting agendas. When you have a clear idea of what the expectations are going into the meeting, you can prepare the right documents, the right information, answer the right questions so that you can show up and not have to scramble during the conversation to actually get what you need. What you don't want to happen is that somebody asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, and then you get absorbed by just answering this question and are not able to be present for the rest of the meeting. I've done this before. I have fallen into this trap where somebody asks me a question in the middle of a meeting, and I become so fixated on answering this one really unimportant, really minor question, and I get completely sidetracked. Not even for that meeting, but for the rest of the day. And that could have been an action item to follow up on later. We could have put a deadline on it. And it helps for you to reflect and ask yourself, wait, what is the urgency of what I am being asked? Can we separate meeting topics that are just talking about right now versus follow-ups to do later with a specific date in mind? There's tools like the Zoom AI Companion, there's Phantom AI, there's a million different Zoom and Slack and Teams note takers out there that will plug into your meeting for you and take notes and transcribe and generate action items and summarize things. And that removes the need for you to have to think about these things, to have to remember them, because it is doing all of that for you in the background. It is a neurodivergence blessing. I cannot more highly recommend Zoom and meeting note takers. They are such a huge benefit to me as well. I use them for action items. I use them to summarize what has been discussed. I say, did we talk about this? And with Zoom and other tools, you can actually interact with a transcript and engage with it. I can ask questions to the transcript and say, hey, what did we actually decide on this front? If the written transcript doesn't cover it, I can ask the tool about this question, and it'll say, oh yeah, we talked about this, this, and that, or no, we didn't talk about this, what are you talking about? If you don't have this in your workplace today, consider asking for it as an accommodation. In this day and age, with these tools as ubiquitous as they are, I'd be very surprised if nobody in your company was using it or didn't have access to this. Your organization should want you to be able to show up for these meetings and not have to be distracted by all these different things happening. Who said this? Who did that? What are the action items? What do I have to do here? You want to show up for this meeting and just focus on the meeting, because if you don't, everyone's going to be writing down things on their notebook. They're going to be typing notes off to the side. They will not be able to be as focused and present on this meeting. And with these tools and note takers, you can. We're still in the meeting, and you still have a communication style, a way that you talk. Maybe you talk fast. Maybe you talk slow. Maybe you like to ask questions. Maybe you need a moment to think about what somebody is actually asking you before you come up with a response. I am a really bad person at talking slowly. I have to focus on it and really slow myself down mentally. That's a form of masking for me. I consciously have to remind myself to talk slowly. It is a very high cognitive load on my brain. It takes a lot of energy away from me being able to focus on it. And I say that to people. I say, hey, I might talk fast sometimes. Please be aware of it. If I am unintelligible, if you can't hear me, please ask me to repeat myself. I will not be hurt. I will not be upset. Please just tell me so I can repeat what I'm saying and focus and slow down. And that works the other way too. If somebody is saying something to you, if they're asking you a question and you were zoning out, if you couldn't understand them, they were talking fast, maybe they have an accent, maybe you're not familiar with the terminology or the linguistics, it's okay for you to ask them to say, hey, can you repeat that? Can you slow down? Can you re-explain this topic? This goes beyond the AI tools, unfortunately, when it happens in the middle of a meeting. And this has happened to me loads of times when I have wanted to try to get an answer to a question from someone, and maybe I'm afraid to ask and say, hey, can you repeat that? Because I couldn't quite make out what you were saying. And you can also make something up too if you're afraid to blame on your neurodiversity. I don't blame you for wanting to do that. It's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. You can just say, hey, my internet cut out, which is a perfectly valid reason for why you might want someone to repeat something. Lag happens. As good as Zoom and Slack and Teams are, lag happens. And I will admit that sometimes I have been on meetings where my brain has not been able to keep up with the conversation, and I've just said, hey, you cut out for a second. Can you repeat yourself? And then they do, and we go on with our conversation, and neurodiversity never comes up as part of it. I don't recommend lying, but it's a good white lie to be able to tell in order to ask someone to repeat something without making it a tense moment about your neurodiversity if that matters to you, or if you're not comfortable sharing it with people. Another tool that's helped me that's pretty ubiquitous these days is AI captions. I turn them on in pretty much all the meetings that I'm in. And even if I don't look at them all the time, I can just glance down to kind of catch up on the last 5 seconds and say, oh, that's what we talked about, because maybe I am looking at something on the screen and my mind may be taken away from that conversation for a second and I can catch the captions. Or maybe it is a language issue. Maybe it's a translation issue. And I just want to be able to glance at those captions. And you may be the kind of person who benefits strongly from that type of automated captioning. The best part about those kinds of captions is that you can turn them on for yourself and nobody has to know that they've been turned on for anybody else. It's just for you only. And that's great. If that matters to you to have the secrecy and privacy and just have it be a self-accommodation, go ahead and turn them on. Who's going to care? It's like, oh my God, someone turned on the captions. What's the problem with that? No one has ever shamed me for turning the captions on, even if it was a public meeting-wide thing for any reason. And even when it's private, great. Nobody has to ever worry or comment on it. Sometimes if I turn on the captions, I might say, oh, I copied this word down wrong if it's a very unique or one-off term, but that doesn't happen very often. I'm often surprised at a dictionary that Zoom and Slack tools use for that kind of captioning. It's actually pretty in-depth. And if you're the type of person who looks at these tools and says, oh, I have to read all of this, put that into another AI tool and have it read it to you. Text-to-speech AI is pretty good these days, and it's pretty conversational too. So go ahead and put that all into an AI to have it read a transcript back to you, if that's what you're worried about in the way you're trying to process it. However you communicate, text, audio, video, in person, whatever, you want to take pride in being somebody who brings depth to a conversation and not just being present and showing up. You don't want to be known for just being quick and speedy, but for bringing in valuable insights. You need to reflect on what that means to you. How do I have to show up to a meeting to bring complexity, to bring understanding, and actually generate value for this meeting? Not just for myself, but for everybody else who's here, so that we all know that this meeting was a really good use of our time. Your pace and understanding things is not a problem to fix. It's a strength to honor that everybody else has to agree upon and support you with. If they're not, you gotta tell them how they can support you. I'm gonna leave you with a prompt to think about for yourself the next time that you're in a meeting when you are frustrated and feeling like you wish you had something to make this meeting better. What would help you be more present for this meeting, more focused and more attentive? Is it an accommodation? Is it turning your video off? Is it having a captioning service? What's going to help you feel like you can actually show up and do what you have to do for this meeting? Think about that next time you're going into a conversation that maybe you're anticipating, maybe you're dreading, but you just know it's going to be a wild one.